Alright, so you've discovered carnivore, you've watched the videos from Dr. Chafee, from Dr. Kingberry, you might have been watching some from Dr. Bickman, you've watched all the influencer videos, and you're absolutely convinced that going carnivore is going to solve so many of your life's issues. And I truly believe that it will. You might be at this point and you've pulled the trigger and you've switched to a largely meat only or meat only diet, and now you've run into your first problem, which has come from a place that you did not expect, which is that your partner, so your wife, your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your sister, your brother, your significant other is very much against the idea of your newfound way of eating. And maybe this is the first time that you've run into this kind of conflict in your relationship, and this is causing a whole lot of angst that you would rather do without. Now, I'm not a relationship expert. I am just going to give you my perspective based on my experience and nothing more than that. And maybe some of what I'm about to say will help you, maybe it won't, maybe you completely disagree, and that's fine, that's okay. So, my beautiful wife, April, who I love and adore, was not very keen on the idea when I first brought this up a few months ago of switching my diet to carnivore. And I had a few good reasons for wanting to do it, wanting to see if I could eliminate. I've had sciatica for a few months, and I thought maybe there's some inflammation that might be causing that. I wanted to see whether I could help with carpal tunnel syndrome in my arms. I was interested in seeing if I can improve my sleep, and just interested in being a healthier human being than what I already was. And her initial reaction was, yeah, that's fine, but you can handle your own cooking, etc. And that works okay for me. So you might be in a relationship where your partner does do a lot of the cooking or all of the cooking, and that could be the first hurdle for you to overcome. And I would suggest that you be okay with the fact you may have to do all of your own cooking from this point onwards, and that may never actually change. That's the first thing. The second thing I would say is, don't try to convince your partner just don't try to convince them, all right? You've done the research. You're now like Galileo in the 1600s with the heliocentric model. The establishment of the day said that to speak of the heliocentric model was basically heresy, and I think that people who were found doing that were burned at the stake. I don't know whether they were burned at the stake anyway. It was serious. If you spoke about the heliocentric model, which is the model that the solar system revolved around the sun and not around the earth like they all thought. And Galileo was forbidden from talking about it. And it wasn't until much longer after he died that the heliocentric model was actually found to be true and adopted as the way that we know how the solar system and planets and the universe works now. So think of yourself in those terms. You're now an outlier, and chances are nobody's going to agree with you. And you just have to be okay with that fact. You're doing what you're doing because you want to have better health. You may want to lose weight. You might have any number of health issues that you are convinced that the carnivore diet is going to help you with. And excellent health is everybody's birthright. You need to do whatever. If you're serious about improving your health, then you need to do whatever you think is actually the right thing to do to improve that. Don't let anybody else tell you that you shouldn't do it, but also don't expect anyone else to agree with you either, which is tough, right? Because some of us rely on people wanting to agree with us, and it can be hard when people don't. So what happened in my situation? So firstly, I had to do, April doesn't cook my food anymore. That's basically it, which is okay because I used to cook a lot of my own food anyway. And we have a pretty different living situation, which maybe one day I'll talk about, but for now I've got my own fridge at my place. But in April's fridge, I have a shelf, and that is where I put all my stuff, all my meat and things that I've cooked, etc. And she also wasn't too keen about the idea of the smell of cooking meat inside the house, the smell that's left over. And I'm inclined to agree. So, and this has actually turned out to be a really good thing, because If you've watched any of my videos, you'll see that I appear to be cooking outdoors, and I live in a small apartment a lot of the time, and that's what I do. I cook outdoors, so I bought a portable induction hot plate. I love cooking in the pan. I have power out there, so I can cook everything outside. Initially, I felt being ousted, not even allowed to be in the house to cook anymore. As it turns out, it's actually a really good thing. One is it allows the cooking smells to dissipate very quickly, but also the kids really love it. So they come outside with me. We're cooking outside, which is a unique experience for them. I'm getting things out of the pan on the plate. They're picking up the food as it's cooked, and we often do this just at dusk or before dark, or even while it's dark. We've got the fairy lights on outside. It's become a bit of an adventure for the kids as well. And speaking of kids, I'm now the person who's in charge of cooking the meat for the kids, which is actually cool, because do the kids only eat carnivore? Only no, they eat a whole variety of food. But I'm the person who cooks the bacon for them, rissoles. They really like bacon, actually. So I'm experimenting with all different kinds of food. Cook eggs, boiled eggs, fried eggs, the works. They eat all of that food, but I'm the person who's responsible for cooking it for them, which I think is good. It's a great thing too. I know that they're getting the health benefits that come with eating plenty of fat, plenty of protein, plenty of animal products. And they also have the other side of things, which is April likes to provide them with fresh vegetables and fruit, etc., and to try to keep their processed carbohydrates to a minimum. So that's good as well. Now, if you've got a partner who's vegan, and a lot of vegans are very, in my experience anyway, they're quite dogmatic about their beliefs. They believe that anybody who eats meat is a heretic and should be burned at the stake. And my response to that is, if you're not willing to have a reasoned argument and to present and to follow evidence and facts, then there's probably no point even talking about it. And your opinion is yours, and I've got mine, and I'm willing to argue. I'm willing to have a reasoned argument about it. But if you're just going to say you're an idiot because you're eating animals and that's cruel to animals, then there's probably no point in having that discussion, because I think there are arguments either way. You may have a partner or a significant other or a family member or members that are like that. I think at the end of the day, you're just going to have to accept the fact that other people will have a different opinion to you, and not everybody's going to agree, no matter how logical or sensible or wise your decision to live a carnivore lifestyle might be. That's just the nature of us as human beings. We often have different opinions, and they're very much based on emotions. They're not always based on logic or following reason or evidence, as much as we would like to think that we do that. I feel like sometimes I was a scientist in another life, and I like to follow evidence and consider different points of view. And I think it's especially important that if you have a particular point of view, that you be open-minded enough to consider other evidence that may actually have you change your point of view. The kind of people that can do that, they're few and far between. And that's just life. I like to say that you can be skeptical or you can be cynical. So a cynical person will have a point of view and an opinion, and they won't consider any other evidence to the contrary, no matter how well-reasoned the argument might be. They have their steadfast point of view, and that's it. That's my definition of cynical. Maybe it's a bit different if you look it up in a dictionary. And then someone who is skeptical is someone who may have a point of view, but they're open-minded enough to consider other evidence and may even change their point of view or change their mind or their opinion, completely reverse their opinion about that based on new and additional evidence. And that is the way of the world. There is always new evidence that's coming out. When people say there's no scientific studies that say that the carnivore diet isn't good for you, where's the science that shows that it's good? Maybe there isn't a lot of scientific studies yet, but I tell you what, there's a lot of anecdotal evidence. Thousands of people that participate in groups that Dr. Berry and others have, thousands of people who've got YouTube channels that talk about their experiences. Just because it wasn't written by a scientist and published in a paper, does it make that evidence any less valid? No, it doesn't. I think any scientist will tell you that anecdotal evidence has its a very valuable place in the scientific process, and that's where it starts. Firstly, there's an observation, there's an experiment, and it might be just an experiment one person's done. They found some evidence, that then becomes anecdotal evidence, and until such a time as a scientist or a group of scientists is able to do a peer-reviewed study, longitudinal, about the carnivore diet, we may never actually have that scientific evidence that some people seem to want to have. They're quite happy to follow along with the standard American diet or the standard Australian diet, even though it's absolute rubbish. That's just how it is. I've rambled on a little bit, but in summary, if you have a partner, significant other, family members, friends, etc., who think you're an idiot because you decided to go with the carnivore way of eating, then you just have to accept them for where they are. If they see that your health is improving, you're losing weight, one of the great unexpected benefits that I had is that I've been weight training since I was a teenager, and I'm 52 now. And in the past few months, I've literally added on 4 or 5 kilograms of lean muscle tissue. I was not expecting that. I'd been pretty much the same weight for the last decade, up and down a little bit, but I'm so much stronger and fitter, and at my age, a lot of society might tell you, that's it, you're over the hill now. Your hormone levels are going to be going down. It's going to be much more difficult for you to add muscle tissue. That's rubbish. And I don't take any supplements. I've always taken supplements my entire life, vitamins, minerals, etc. Always consume additional protein powder. I don't have any of that now. Whatever I get from my diet, that's it. And that has worked for me so much better than anything I've ever done in the last couple of decades. Just let people see, just stick to your guns and let people see the benefits that are right in front of their face, and they're going to become curious. Some people go, well, what have you been doing, and how come you've been doing it, and tell me more about that. It's hard to ignore really hard evidence when it's right in front of you. So don't be discouraged. Your partner, your significant other, your family members, your friends don't agree with what you're doing. That's okay. You're doing this for you. You're not doing it for them. So just stick to it. Keep putting one foot in front of the other. And let me know in the comments if you've had challenges with your with your friends and family when it comes to starting the carnivore, and whether that might be something that's in the way for you. Peace out.